gentlemen, the Uncutt Podcast.
Of course. It wouldn't be right if you weren't posing.
But I got a new thing I'm going to do, Nick.
What are you going to do?
Every week. That.
Please don't do that.
No, but you said that about the other thing, and now it's trending worldwide.
Yeah, the pose, hashtag 2 clicks. Yes, it's all. Oh, God. Well, Roberto, please stop doing that. How's life treating you, man?
Dude, life's treating me really good right now. A little bit under the weather, not feeling all that great, but I'm excited nonetheless.
Dude, if I could just make it through one episode with no technical difficulties, I feel like I'd be doing pretty okay.
Wouldn't be a
As
show.
everyone can tell, this is not my normal quality, and Robbie's running the show technically, so
I got the power.
This is it's frightening for me on many levels. But hey, man, in 24 hours, I'm going to be in Tyrone, Georgia, about ready to see AC MACK become hashtag and new IWTV World Champion. It's going to be great, but I feel like I could talk about the show a whole lot. You could probably, hold your own. But I feel like our guest tonight, probably a lot better to talk about it than either one of us.
You know what? I'll go along with that.
Yeah, you should. I think he could take you. That being said, our guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the promoter of Action Wrestling and the man behind hashtag Southeast First, Matt Griffin.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Never stop, constant battle through the city. Think I gotta walk around the town when it gets busy. Little less clutter, still a brittle ass gutter. This was all flooded with the butterflies and violated. Must be getting better cause my trust has been assembled. Things have finally settled since I learned to tame my temper. Consciousness is tougher, still I got an inner devil. Hypnotic brothers with an identical mental. I collect the petals of a black rose. Make a circle at the devil, meditate up in the middle. Candles lit, overweight with no hope. Intentionally living haunted houses, so I'm social. Never alone with the ghost of my novel.
Welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me. That's a cool video.
How's it going? Yeah, shout out to our guy TJ Vegas from the INDY movement. The logo's over here. I get it backwards every time. Hashtag just plain filthy. The INDY movement. He's the guy. Makes great videos for us every week. We love him.
I appreciate that. That's a good variety of clips there.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get into the show, Matt, just want to ask a little bit about your background, what your earliest memories were as a fan, and what kind of brought you into running Action Wrestling.
Well, the first thing that I really remember as a fan was the Mega Powers Explode main event angle from February 1989. I probably had seen some stuff before. I was 11 at the time, but that was what really sunk in. I started watching wrestling in the spring and summer of 1989, and I went to a July 89 show that turned out to actually be a Saturday night's main event and Superstars taping. And I kind of fell in love right there and decided I want to do this someday. I joined the Marines out of high school, and then I kind of got into some good physical shape. I went to wrestling school, and that was pretty much it. I had a really cool education in wrestling. My mentor was Q-Ball Carmichael. He wrestled a lot from Pittsburgh area to Maryland, North Carolina, Jersey, and I would go on the road with him at times. We'd take my car and he'd pay for gas, and I got a road education before I ever took the first bump. And that was, I'm doing math now, almost 24 years ago that I started.
You're a pretty big dude. What are your stats?
My stats are that I eat too much fast food and my diet is terrible. those are my stats. No, it's funny because I was small in high school. I was not incredibly large as a Marine. I was still thin. I started bulking up a little bit in wrestling, not really at all, but for me it was at the time, and now I'm just a fat old white guy. So basically, like every indie promoter, I'm at least 20 pounds overweight.
I don't know if Nick's ready to ask his question, but if he was, I'm sure he'd ask. So, how did you transition from being a wrestler to wanting to start your own promotion? Was it a transition that happened like abruptly, or was it something that gradually happened?
I always because my trainer, my mentor, he had also promoted. That's how I met him. So I kind of got a look at behind the scenes look as, you know, on the road trips, he would tell me about running shows, and all that knowledge over the course of years sank in. I saw shows that were well run, and I probably learned more from events that were not very well run. I used to do after I basically actively retired from wrestling, I did some improv comedy, and I had a lot of good experiences at a theater in Atlanta. I also had a lot of bad experiences and saw what did not work. And I think seeing what did not work and what I didn't want to be a part of, I learned, I think I learned a lot more than that, as far as, you know, not just how to promote, how to poster the town, how to flyer the town, how to draw fans, but how to treat the people coming to work for you, how to maintain a good locker room cohesion. That's actually probably what I'm most proud of. The wrestlers really like our locker room, as in they know that there's not going to be any bullshit, that they know they're going to get paid on time, or most of the time, actually, if somebody's been established with wrestling for me, I've paid them before they ever get to the building. So they don't sweat a payoff, and they don't sweat the fact that they're going to have to wait for an envelope. Is it going to be light after the show? For the most part, I'm able to take care of like 75 to 80% of my wrestlers beforehand. So that's actually the thing I'm the most proud of. We have a really good locker room cohesion. There's really no drama or bullshit in the locker room, which is it is not the same everywhere.
No, definitely. We have heard a lot of locker room drama stories.
I love to hear the drama stories as long as they're happening somewhere else. So I actually, I actually do love it.
Yes, give me all the drama, so long as it doesn't involve me or anyone I'm doing business with directly.
That's absolutely correct.
For sure. So, like, Action Wrestling has had a lot of great champions along the way, from AC MACK to Alan Angels, Brett Eisen, and now Merck.
Alan Angels and Brett Eisen, and they've been and Merck is current TWE champion, and the TWE Total Wrestling Entertainment out of Chattanooga is in our family of shows. And he's defending the belt on Southeast First. Brett Eisen was the one that Graham Bell defeated to win the championship, and Alan Angels has done a lot of shows, but there's been only two Action champions, and that's AC MACK and Eric Royal.
I screwed my notes up on that, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. It gets confusing because we have such a mix of talent. I book for Scenic City with Scott Hensley, who's my ring announcer. We also help at TWE. That's Jade Newman's promotion. I don't really have a pencil there, but I help produce stuff. and of course, a lot of our people we've co-ran 2 shows with Southern Underground Pro. Brent Eisen was the Sup Bone Storm champion, for example. So there's a lot of, which is good, I think, because a lot of different people are getting experience. They're working a lot of shows in Nashville, Chattanooga, as well as in Tyrone, Georgia. And it's a really good crew, but yes, only 2 action champions. And we've been around almost 4 years. So it's pretty nice to have that consistency.
Yeah. Mac held that belt for what, almost 800 days, right? So
798. That's right.
798, remember?
Yeah, I knew it was 780, 790, somewhere in there. I just didn't want to screw it up again. I already screwed up like 5 times the show.
So once it became a thing, I would tell AC, like, hey, I would send him a message and be like, hey, here's how many days it's been. So I looked them all up and I started putting reminders in my phone, like AC Mack 500 days, so that I would know certain milestone days that I'd want him to tweet about how long he's been the champion. That's pretty funny.
And if there's ever a guy who's dependable on social media, it is definitely AC Mack.
That perfectly leads into my question, which is, got a guy like AC Mack, dude. That guy's got a super massive, entertaining ego. How do you handle all those egos and keep a locker room that you're so proud of being drama free?
How much kayfabe do I break here?
Dude, none.
Oh no, we're
all of it. We're uncut. What am I talking about?
Well, the reason that AC has been on every action show is because he actually is very easy to deal with. I would not really permit somebody to. I mean, I've been around a long time. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I have a lot of experience. So people don't try to pull that type of stuff.
They just know.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate that most wrestle. Now, I will not mention some stories, but those are people who generally don't wind up on my shows or maybe do a show or two and see themselves out, essentially. But it does happen where you have people who do have egos as big as their wrestling characters, and that's usually not going to work out well. It's just not, because I need to have, I need to have certain standards in my locker room, and it's one thing as a rib. I love to joke around and rib. I rib my talent all the time, consistently on shit. So, but as far as having an actual ego outside of the ring, AC Mack is very easy to deal with.
Yeah, he's super chill guy. He was cool when he was on our show, and I've talked to him plenty of times since, and he's nothing but like the best dude. I hate to kill his gimmick like that, but
well, I mean, when you think about it, he's if you were to keep it as like a shoot, when he's not in the ring, he's not performing. That's totally different. When you have everybody who's gunning for your spot, and you had wrestlers gunning for his belt for 2 years, you need to have that ego. Like like if I owned a sports team, if I owned a basketball team, I'd want my point guard to think he's got the. Well, it's uncut, so I'm just going to let loose. But I want my point guard, for example, to have the biggest balls on the basketball court, to think that no matter what, he can make that basket at that critical time. I want these wrestlers to know that they can adapt to and rise up to whatever situation they're in. I want my favorite thing is to get a lot out of a little. Like, action is actually pretty bare bones. I don't have a gigantic budget, but we have done exceptionally well, in my opinion, for the shows that we put out for the budgets that I have to work with. I'm very proud of that. It's the old. I was a ECW fan in the late 90s, and Paul Heyman was always talked about being able to maximize every talent's abilities, and I really like to be able to do that. I will say that that's an ideal, and I absolutely do not in practice do that. I've actually, on the sly been unhappy with a lot of creative decisions I made. Like, I had, these many matches with this wrestler, and I don't feel like I took advantage of their skill set at all, or I should have made a different match, or, but that's going to happen when you've run, a lot of shows just about every month over 4 years.
So with Southeast first coming up, I guess when this airs tomorrow night, what was the origins on that? Like, what was it? You know, we've got all these great shows running. Let's do one big one, or
Well, this is something. Action was on IWTV before it was IWTV. I was on when it was Powerbomb TV.
yeah.
So
I had a subscription back then.
and you know, and it's nothing. You know, obviously there's growing. You know, there's steps. It was definitely not the same service, but we actually streamed our second show ever live on on Powerbomb. So we've been there right from the beginning. The basic genesis is that there was a show in about 2018 or 2019 called the Midwest Mixtape. And there were certain compilation shows, and I really had wanted to not just do an action show streaming live, because we've done that. We've done that several times from our building, and we've streamed live with Scenic City. But I wanted something more. I wanted to be able to try to take the whole Southeast and bring it up to a higher level. It's basically, it's almost sad that, you know, you have so many wrestlers who devoted a lot of time pre-IWTV, and some of their stuff, you know, maybe ends up on YouTube and maybe doesn't. There's so many lost matches that were classics that happened before, you know, when they were just basically put on VHS and nobody really saw them. They didn't become a thing. And matches in other areas would get out and would gain interest. So the Southeast was kind of like a gigantic bubble, and I wanted with action to pop the bubble. So this has been something that I've been proposing for several years, and really wanted to push forward. And thankfully, IWTV with Dylan Hales and Jerry, they are, you know, they are very receptive to hearing things, and basically we just want to make sure something would work, and we thought it was a good time. And you know, fingers crossed. The pre-sale is good. We're real happy with that. The anticipation locally is good, and you know, we just got to deliver.
How, you know, I know a lot on this card. There's a lot of cross promotion with other brands that are in your network, your family of wrestling leagues. What's the criteria for teaming up with another wrestling promotion?
Well,
what are like the rules, that your rules?
In general, or with this specific show?
In general, in this specific show, if it's pertinent.
With this specific show, it's funny because there's a lot of creative stuff that I'm not in charge of, which I knew. This is all, you know, this is an IWTV event in the end. It's not, it's basically like an IWTV event hosted by Action Wrestling.
Right.
Hopefully this will become a thing. We've got, you know, we've got a lot of promotions that are on board for this show. We want to help push, you know, some are new to IWTV. Some have been around for a few years. We want to help push everybody to as big, you know, and to get attention. We want to try to blow up the Southeast and make it a scene that's even more well known. So as far as the actual promotions, that was something that IWTV really worked on with their specific criteria. And in general, to do any sort of co-promotion, I have to have a really good feeling about the another company. It's no secret we collaborated with Southern Underground Pro for shows at the Showcase of the Independents in Tampa last April. And we had a show called Have Fun, Be Sad. Violence is Forever was was basically the keynote. They were the SUP tag team champions, and they are now the Action tag team champions. We have a great relationship with everybody who runs SUP. So, you know, when they do well, I feel like it's good for us as well, because we use, you know, we have different talent bases because we're about 4.5, 5 hours apart. But there's enough similar people that we have a really good flow. But realistically, it's going to come down to trust, and as long as the other brand is something that you know, that we think would jive and fit. You know, co-promoting can be tricky because everybody wants their guys to go over.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And you know,
that would be to me that would be the main conflict right there. It's like who's gonna get that rub, and how are you gonna make it so that the person that doesn't win still feels like they got what they wanted out of it.
I mean, to me, everybody wins because this is an IWTV Promoter show. This is like a tentpole quarterly event. This is not just one promotion saying, "Hey, we're going to stream live." We've done that, and we will do it in the future. We've already got some prospective dates later for 2022 lined up to be able to stream live. But you know, it can be difficult because you want to make sure that everybody's happy, and you know, we'll see. Hopefully, I'm as good as managing as I think I am, but we've also done it with Scenic City Invitational, where you've got wrestlers from different, you know, and they can look at the sheet and it's like, all right, well, this person, you know, this wrestler gets, you know, 5 more minutes in their match than we do. How can we get more time? And there can always be conflicts and, you know, politicking, and there's always reasons for things. I will say this was an action match, and I did have somebody go extremely overtime, and they were trying to impress me. They went way overtime in a match, and I'm trying to tell them to take it home. And I had told them specifically what I wanted. And instead, they ended up on my shit list and were basically gone a couple shows later after they filled the other dates that I gave them. Because it's like, if you can't listen to me, and I know everything. because I'm the booker. Dylan Hales and I go over everything, times, flows. So if you're given a certain amount of time for a match, there's a reason, and there's a reason that there's a style of a match that we may put on it. You know, like hey, this needs to be a sprint, or this needs to be this, and it's like we're setting you up for success, not for failure. Don't go out and go, you know, and try to completely fuck us up, especially if the crowd's not there. I did have a match recently, and I told them, you know, he said, "Hey, can we go over on time?" I'm like, "Yes, if the crowd's with you." He's like, "They will be." I'm like, "I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that." But that's, you know, it's because you have to be cautious with everything on a card. If you have a second match on a 8 or 9 match show that goes long, it's like, well, you're just screwing the guys at the end. Because I run on a Friday night, people are waking up at 6:30 to go to work, get their kids to school. They don't always want to be, you know, there can be some yawns at 9:30, 10 o'clock at a, you know, at a wrestling show. Sometimes brevity is a huge advantage that people don't take it, you know, that don't take seriously.
Yeah. So like, people gotta like understand like all the dynamics, dude. It's a well-oiled machine, and the fans are part of it too, and where they're at in their heads matters too. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it's you know, it's all a trade-off. It's all part of a show. You know, if you just have a segment, you know, get your point across, do it well, and then get out of there.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
My events do not have a lot of lag. They usually clip from match to match, which I'm very happy about and very proud of.
So before we get to the card, as someone who came up in Tennessee Indies, I've always kind of thought this, and I talked to Kerry Awful about this when he was on. Do you feel like the Southeast gets the respect it deserves versus, say, the Midwest or the East Coast? Or are we still pigeonholed as Memphis?
And is that good or bad?
Well, I mean, I think that it's
the answer.
I mean, for the Midwest, I would say, you know, I think the West Coast has had definitely a similar problem as to us, and thankfully with IWTV, other promotions have been getting a lot of credit. You have Level Up, which is B-Boy's school. They're putting out shows. West Coast Pro has had several shows that streamed live on IWTV. You've got shows in Oregon and Washington State. So there's the West Coast has been coming up, but I generally don't feel like the Southeast gets a lot of respect outside the bubble because of reasons. Some of them are actually self-inflicted. because there's groups here who will do 400, 500, 600 people a show, and you never hear anything about them. You know, are the shows good? Who the fuck knows? Because nobody's seen them. You know, they might end up on YouTube, but you know, there's only a couple promotions in the state of Georgia that are on IWTV, and there's, God, I don't even know how many groups are actively running shows in the state of Georgia. 20, 25, 30.
Mm-hmm.
And there's as far as IWTV goes, there's Action, there's Southern Honor. We are generally really good about getting content up, both of the groups. Southern Violence and Wrestling in Athens is fairly new to IWTV. And then there's some other groups who run quality shows and they draw houses, and it's like, okay, so you drew this amount of people, great. But none of these wrestlers are going to get, none of these matches are going to get seen again. They're not going to be seen on like a, you know, on YouTube or on any sort of streaming service. They're not going to be seen on VOD because you're not putting it out there. You're not promoting it. You're only promoting to a local fan base. I mean, to me, you know, when you go live or you have a show, that's almost like a TV taping, and then it lives on in VOD. So it's, I get two audiences. I have people who saw, well, three, honestly, people who watched it live, people who watched it live on IWTV, and people who watch it on VOD later. So, I mean, you've got to maximize it. And I think to go ahead and just cover up in a turtle shell and say, oh, nobody respects us, yet you never put anything out, you don't book talent who matters, you don't make your talent matter, I think that's, you know, self-fulfilling prophecy. I've always wanted to be a promotion and always wanted to push stuff that mattered and get our shows seen, you know, around the country, out of the Southeast. So I've had a different mindset than just about everybody else in Georgia.
I got a question for you. I was going over the card for the show, and notice there's no women's matches on it. Is that by design?
No, not at
Obviously.
all. Unfortunately, there were a few attempts, and it was just a very difficult night. It's something that I am aware of and wanted to improve on for Action itself in 2021. I didn't quite get there. I mean, myself, I had an ongoing feud with Angela Slane.
I was about to say, it's not like there's not a great female talent there that you know. It's not like you don't use them.
I mean, if I say she's not great, she's going to come hit me in the face because she did that on my birthday, among other times.
I was gonna say maybe that's why the locker room don't got no drama.
Oh, great! There goes us booking Angela Slane. Thanks, Robbie.
Maybe she'll want to come and beat me up or verbally.
I hope she does.
Verbally accost me.
I hear from other people that she is very nice. She is not very nice to me. So she hits harder than she hits hard. Let's say that.
Without saying his name, because I've promised myself I never would. I saw her make a guy flinch at Showcase of the Independents last year. I think we all.
I resemble that match, and yes, that was she's tough. She the match she had in December with Tank actually happened because Tank was watching the Action Sub show, Have Fun Be Sad, and he said to me after the match, because I was over by him and Dan Wilson, Jeff G. Bailey, and he's like, "Man, put me in with Angela Slane sometime." And Tank is not somebody who is very kind about, you know, he was not very much in favor of intergender wrestling. So for her to win his respect and for him to really be able to see, you know, to see the light on it and really come around and want to do it himself, that's, you know, I mean, that's fantastic. The flip side of that is there's a lot of people who aren't interested in intergender wrestling, and we're going to leave it at that. With the exception of one of my known wrestlers, gave a verbal tongue lashing to some people and made sure that they knew that wrestling women was just wrestling.
Yeah.
And I mean, unfortunately, we did have a couple good ideas for Southeast First. January 21st ended up being an incredibly difficult night to book because GCW later that weekend is running Hammerstein. On January 21st, you've got a lot of notable indie shows, and then Impact and MLW are both taping, and All Elite Wrestling is live from, I'm not sure where they are, but that's one of their live Fridays. It's not taped. So that was in retrospect, that ended up being a very difficult night for talent. I will say I'm very happy that for our next show in March, we do have a notable female talent.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Flight is booked, and I will not be revealing yet.
Nice. I do have to laugh that you said Tank told you that he wanted Angelus, because when he was on our show, he was like our 4th guest, I want to say, and we asked about intergender wrestling. The first thing he said was, "I want to fight Angelus Lane."
Did he say that?
He did. It was awesome.
Yeah, he's I've known him for 20 years. We both broke into Wildside in Georgia at the same time, and we had a very short program, a couple matches, or just a couple shows, and one match that I had in a tag match, and so we've had a lot of respect for each other since then, and it was very cool. It was very cool to be able to do that. So yeah, he likes Angelus now, and if you watch the match
after that fight,
and he gives her respect after the match, and if somebody like Tank is going to do it, he's not just going to go ahead and stick his hand out and say, respect because he decided in the back. If he's going to give you respect after the match, you fucking earned it. From here, it's because you earned it and you impressed him.
So yeah, so let's get into it. Let's get into Southeast first. Robbie, what's the first match we got on deck, man? Dude, Adam Priest versus Anthony Henry.
Mm-hmm.
This one is wild to me. Adam Priest, great wins last year over Davey Boy Smith Jr., former New South heavyweight champion, just lost it a couple weeks ago. And I think everybody knows Anthony Henry for just being a crazy, hard-hitting son of a gun. We had him on our show right before he faced Suzuki.
Should I keep those posters up, Nick?
Oh, no, just, that was fine. Okay. So what was kind of the impetus for this match? What was your thoughts in booking it? And
my thoughts was that I pretty much wanted to have. I mean, Adam Priest is one of the top guys who his name is well below his talent level, and that should not be the case. He should be booked a lot more. He should be booked a lot more out of the region. He's willing to travel. He's willing to put in the time and the miles. He is really good. He is really good. We put him with Daniel Makabe on night 1 of SCI, and that's how much respect we have for Adam Priest's talent. And I go over lots of matches in my head, and we also had Anthony Henry, and knowing Anthony's skill set and what he's like, I was pretty sure he would be interested in having a match with Adam Priest and that they'd get along well. And it was basically was booked so that we could have a banger fucking match. That's really why. Once the idea popped into my head and I proposed it to Dylan Hales, that was not a difficult match to book. That was one I booked.
Nice. Yeah, you made a good choice. As soon as I saw that one pop up on Twitter, I'm like, all right, we know Mac and Shelley's going to be a banger. This is definitely going to be one too.
Yeah, I really wanted to have. I really want to have when I do get Anthony Henry in, I want to have the best matches possible.
Okay.
Roberto.
Match two.
Now this 6-man. Diego Hill, Bojack, BK Westbrook, out of North Carolina, taking on Bobby Flacco, Brogan Finley, and Ashton Starr. Ashton Starr, who had a crazy match. Robbie, pull it down.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. Pay attention, kid. Gotta quit smoking all the weed, Robbie. Jesus Christ.
I'm sober, I swear.
Ashton Starr, who had a crazy match against Brett Eisen at SUP a couple months ago at True Believers.
That was a fantastic match.
Yeah,
I can't wait. I'm going to be able to say Bob's here live and in person. Super excited for that.
Yeah,
Bob's here.
Bob's here. But I think the guy who might be the breakout star of this match might be Bojack. I mean, this is probably one of the biggest stages he's been on.
Yeah.
Between this and Deadlock Pro, I mean.
So I've had BK in a few times. He's wrestled Cabana Man Dan for me, and he's done a few other matches. Diego and Bojack have not, but when we knew PWF was going to be in, I really wanted the trio, because that trio were on the IWTV October show, which was, I think, called Untitled, where Shelley beat Yuta for the belt.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were on Beyond a week or two later following that. That's a really nice threesome. I wanted to have a 6-man type of match, so I specifically asked for those three. To be perfectly honest, we've also had Bojack and Diego in at TWE in Chattanooga, and they did well there. So I really wanted that threesome, and when when looking at our roster for Action, I was trying to figure out who would match up best with them. And Ashton Starr also had a really good match at our Kevin show at Restival with Davien. So that was a really easy choice to add Ashton in with Bob and Brogan. And I want to see what will happen. I am a big fan of the trio style when done right, and I just want to see what will happen. I also did want to have promotion versus promotion type of matches. I didn't want it just to be everybody sends a match and it's all isolated in their own little pods.
Mm.
That's definitely gonna be a match I'm looking forward to, dude. Seriously.
Match number 3, Robbie.
Southern Honor Championship, Owen Knight versus Kyle Matthews. Can you tell us a little bit about the Southern Honor Championship and its origins and what it means to these two competitors?
Well, Southern Honor is they also run Friday nights in Georgia. They are let's just say there's a lot of people when that logo popped up were kind of curious about it, but we're about doing business. Owen Knight he's a really good wrestler. He's done some obviously he's a Southern Honor champion. Plus he's done a lot of he's done championship wrestling in Atlanta. He's I'm trying to think of he's done some wrestling in Augusta. He's done a lot of stuff. They proposed to have him defend the title, and I was very open to that, obviously. And they proposed a couple names to challenge him. Kyle Matthews was pretty much an easy one to go with, because for the simple reason that when we think of the idea of what we want out of Southeast First, like we've talked about, expanding the reach and the power of the Southeast and to be able to break people out, Kyle Matthews is one of those people we mean. He had, 15, 16 years ago, I wrestled Kyle Matthews in singles matches and in tag matches. And that was before he was Kyle Matthews and really known and had gotten a reputation. He was good then. And he had so many matches that were lost to the ether or may have a single camera recording, and that may be up on YouTube, or there's plenty of matches that never got taped. And he was one of those type of wrestlers who we thought of that we really wanted to have on this show. And the Southern Honor committee, they recommended him and approved him, so he got the slot. Kyle's obviously a grappler, a wrestler's wrestler. He had an action appearance before with Anthony Henry in November 2020. That was real phenomenal technical match. And Owen Knight it does a little more athletic, a little bit more fast paced, and I really like style clashes. So I want to see what that's going to look like. And I know that this is something that Owen's looking forward to because he's looking to break out as well. I know he jumped at the idea of being able to defend the title on a live stream, and he's getting an opportunity. Hopefully there's a lot of different people who will get to see him for the first time and want to either look him up on VOD on IWTV and also look forward to seeing what he's doing in the future. And that's what we want basically for everybody who's not necessarily as well known as some of the other wrestlers.
Right, exactly. Take the opportunity where you got some names like Alex Shelley and put people out there. Okay, let's look
real
at
quick before you drop the next match. I've had this question in my head, and we're talking about technical wrestlers, and Damian Tanger's coming up, and Alex Shelley, and about Kyle Matthews, who's a great technical wrestler from Georgia. And if you don't want to do this, you just tell me to shut up, and I'll stop. What are your memories and the effect that Jimmy Rave had? And do you feel like a lot of this, that Jimmy would have probably played some sort of part in this?
Well, you mean in Southeast First?
Or just, not would he have been on the show, obviously, given the circumstances, but
what I will say is that I had a specific show that the next day I got some messages from Jimmy saying he watched the show, he really liked it, and he gave a couple notes and was very complimentary, and that meant a lot. I wrestled Jimmy Rave once for Wildside TV, and we had a fun time. But he was a mentor to so many. He was a mentor to a lot of these guys that he would wrestle, advise. He was a guy who wrestled in Japan. He wrestled in Ring of Honor, TNA. He did what everybody's trying to do. So, but his biggest thing, I think, to so many of these guys was he was somebody who broke out of the Southeast, but still cared very much about everybody here. And if you notice in the days after he passed, there were so many people who wanted to share those stories like, hey, Jimmy encouraged me. He gave me notes. He was our biggest supporter. There was a lot of people who said, yes, he was our biggest supporter. And there was, wrestlers he took under his wing and managed and made them part of his stable to help them grow. So, I like to think that he would be, he would definitely be in favor of a show like this with the idea and what we're trying to do. And the show is actually dedicated to the memory of Jimmy Rave.
Awesome, sorry, I didn't want to be the downer, but it's kind of hard to talk about big Southeast wrestling and
not a downer at all. He was a very influential wrestler over the last 20 years.
Yeah, man, that's good, man. When you go, man, you just hope you're celebrated like that, seriously.
It's awful. The proverbial, he had his demons, which is pretty well known. I don't think anybody's hiding that, but he was a good person when he was himself. Myself, I was with him for the weekend of the first SCI and have some funny stories that I won't be sharing from that.
Part two.
Nope. Is that the one where Anthony knocked him out?
That was night one. Yes, that happened.
I actually watched that last weekend.
So the funny part is with working myself back into wrestling, Scenic City actually helped bring me back in. As my friend Al was doing the production, he was starting to do some video and production work, and because I know wrestling and because I know cameras and I'm not an idiot, I know how to frame things and shoot wrestling. He asked if I'd do it. I'd been out for several years at that point and was like, well, I wrestled with some of these guys, but I don't care if I'm a cameraman at ringside if it helps you. And to me, it was help paying my dues to get in on the other side of the curtain. And I do remember shooting that match, and as soon as it happened, I'm like, shit, he's knocked out. I knew it instantly. And I'm standing there. I'm literally the closest person to him, and there's nothing that can be done. And it's like, thankfully, Anthony's a brilliant wrestler and can figure out how to work around it. Until he can recover. He had his bell rung, as happens a lot, and he actually used that to play into the night 2 match with Gunnar Miller, which was a if you watch that match and you watch the finish, Jimmy plays it off perfectly. But I'll just give you go watch night 2, 2015 SCI with Jimmy versus Gunnar Miller. Jimmy told me that morning, and he went over what he wanted to do and asked for feedback on it. Everybody who comes to ringside to help, the only person who knew is the one leading the charge. Everybody else, all the other wrestlers, thought that Jimmy was knocked out again as a shoot. So when you see the reaction, I want you to watch this one, because Jimmy runs across the ring and rolls up Gunnar and cradles him for a pinfall. These other wrestlers are like, they're not acting like all showy. Or what? Oh,
they're just like mouth.
They're reacting like you would actually react. It's great. It was a legit, real reaction. It was basically like the producer of the show was like, you come with me. It was great stuff. I've been able to do certain things like that, not incredibly essential things, but not tell somebody so we can have a legitimate reaction.
Yeah.
I'll use an example. Logan Creed in May defeated Josh Bishop from AIW live on IWTV, and I had the ring announcer not tell him, but Scott Hensley announced that the next show that Logan would be challenging Eric Royal for the Action Championship. And you see Logan, and he's like getting fired up because this was a real thing. I didn't say, hey, we're going to have a segment. You need to make sure you stay in the ring. Nope, it was all organic. And we got to see his legitimate reaction, be like, yes, I'm getting a match. Because he had told me he wanted the match, but I never told him he was getting it until then.
Nice.
So that's like a little something that you can say that I learned from that segment with Jimmy. Like, you can get a lot out of not calling everything and not specifically laying everything out and surprising people.
Is that this kind of lead this question? Does it is that what one of the things that's wrong with mainstream big corporate wrestling like WWE and AEW? That there is no spontaneity, there is no people putting it out there, like, just see what happens.
That's a tough question, and that can be a long question to answer. Because the problem with that is that you are dealing specifically with windows of time. You have segments and you have matches that need to go a certain amount of time, and then they need to wrap it up, and they have to hit cues. We don't have that problem on IWTV, because whether I send IWTV a show that's 2 hours or 3.5 hours, they're going to put it up. I'm not constricted with time as long as it flows well. So I think that's a little bit difficult. I do like what AEW does. You can read that so many of them have freedom on promos and they're not scripted, because I think that's great. But spontaneity, is, let's just say, it's much easier to have on my level. And being able to really change stuff in the moment and figure it out is a lot different when you're not dealing with a format, because especially if you have to do it during a show, there can be a lot of people to tell. I did have a situation where I had to change the matches. I had to go when we were live, I could not take a break. We were live and I had to change the sequencing. I had to go tell the music guy. I had to go tell Dylan Hales and John Mosley on commentary, which they're live. So it's basically typing it on my phone, holding it for them so that they can read it. Then I had to run, and I'm doing this myself because I'm live producing the show and we're live. So it's not like he can just like, all right, we're going to take a break and a brief 2-minute intermission so I can tell you what the fuck's going on. So it's,
it's like on the fly, dude. All right. Well, let's look at match number 4 here. No, I know me and Nick here. No, I'm not too familiar with these guys, so maybe
I'm big time familiar with John Davis, formerly of Ring of Honor. Just an absolute friggin' machine. And Drew Adler's a guy I've seen a couple times. My friend of the show, JD Drake, has told me a couple things about him. Not super familiar. So, what's the thought on this one? And Can anyone survive the John Davis experience?
I don't know. Drew Adler's an impressive looking guy. He's actually one of Anthony Henry's closest friends, so the JD Drake connection doesn't surprise me at all because obviously JD and Anthony are very close.
Yeah.
This is a match that was, I believe it was this the first match we announced aside from AC Mack and Shelley?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was early on. Yeah.
And that we announced live in the ring on our December 3rd Bangers Only 2 show. So I don't think that one counts. But this was the first match we announced. PWX was new to IWTV, as in I found out that PWX was having a match, not long before he announced it. I was great because I had met a couple of the guys there at a show in October and really liked them from PWX. So I was like, okay, that's great if they're on IWTV and you send a match. We worked with John Davis at Scenic City. I've also seen a lot of Drew Adler. So he's a big athletic guy. So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. But that's one of the matches, like I said, I had no influence on it. But when I heard they were sending the match, I'm like, yep, that fits with what we're going for, I think. I was pleased with it. I'm sorry, I have cats running around my room and they're all fighting with each other.
When the black screen fell before the show, that was because my cats knocked it over. Totally understand.
See, I'm a professional.
So, Ronnie,
Cats
before
aren't.
you go to the next match.
Yeah.
So for everybody listening to this, we recorded this like a week before it actually dropped. So you all know what he's about to tell us. You've already seen it on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have no idea, but the Uncutt podcast is actually sponsoring a match on the show. And Matt has yet to tell us what it is because we wanted to be surprised. So Matt, what do we got, man?
So there's literally like 3 people aside from the wrestlers who know this match. And thank you for sponsoring a match, and that does mean a lot because it's we're still not back yet entirely. Advertising and sponsors and friends of the show are very important, so it's appreciated. And I have the graphic here, which is going to be as a shoot released tomorrow, but everybody already knows about it. I get to tell you guys now. So this is going to be Violence is Forever versus Eric Royal and Jaden Newman. It's going to be a non-title match. Violence is Forever are the Action Tag Champions and the Sub Champions. But it is going to be a winner's choice match. So if Violence is Forever wins, Kevin Koo gets a title shot against Eric Royal on our March show. If Eric Royal and Jade Newman win, they get to determine Violence is Forever's opponents and stipulation on our March show.
High stakes, uncut.
So obviously,
this is legit the biggest I can muster. That's amazing.
Obviously, Eric Royal is the Action Champion. Violence for Forever is the Tag Champions. So you have all our belts in this one match. And
that's crazy.
And if
I've never seen you smile that big for real, or that long.
If you go watch our show from August, for our August show, you'll see Eric Royal and Jade Newman tag against Logan Creed and Matt Sells, and they are completely fucking ridiculous. I mean, the promos they had, we shot a promo a week or two before. That was at TWE with the 2 of them, and they were so ridiculous. They had nothing planned. They just were going off each other where their faces like right together. It's ridiculously stupid. The only problem I had was trying to make sure I didn't laugh to fuck it up. So they have teamed before, and Violence is Forever is a 3-time IWTV Tag Team of the Year. So we'll see.
That kind of got started at Bangers Only, right? With Kevin Koo and Eric Royal had the stare down after the Royal Macabre 3.
And you could even say that it started earlier because the reason that Kevin Koo would get the match is because On our May show, we had Dom get his title shot against Eric Royal,
Right.
which if you go to watch the life of Eric Royal on IWTV, that's produced by my good friend John Filipavage, you'll see Eric Royal gets to the building and Dom is out ringside with Kevin Koo for his match with Logan Easton LaRue. Eric goes changes. I call the entire match to Eric, which is basically just, all right, you're going to hit your finish. Comes around the building. He goes out. Dom and him meet in the ring because Dom and Kevin second each other for singles matches. So yeah. Dom's seconding Kevin, got in the ring afterwards. Eric's music plays, and they basically, hey, good to see you. And they have a match. So if you go watch that match on, oh gosh, I can't recall the name of the show right now, but it's one of our May shows. We would do double headers, and May was our last double header. No, it was Boogie Nights. If you watch that, that's a match that's entirely called in the ring and is really interesting from that aspect because that doesn't happen very often.
I can imagine not.
I'm going to have so much to watch on IWTV when we're done filming. I'm not sleeping tonight, boys.
You work tomorrow, Nick?
Unfortunately.
Calling sick. Let's look here. Match number 5. Now, this is a big one.
Yeah, now this one is huge, man, because I was thinking about this on actually the drive home from work today. Brandon Williams, who I just got introduced to recently when he faced Cabana Man Dan at True Believers. Chris Kronk, who just recently made his comeback to New South. The new champion, Orlando Perez. And Donnie Janela, the kayfabe cousin of Joey. One of my favorite wrestlers, purely because he comes out to Steel Dragon.
And Donnie is a former Humongold. That's the name for that belt because it's fucking that belt is fucking gigantic.
That belt is so ridiculously large. It's bigger than Orlando Perez, which is going to be fun to watch him try to wear it to the ring.
That thing is so. I mean, when I got some pictures with it when I saw Derek Neal with it last year and finally held it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is fucking massive. So you see it with somebody.
It's definitely a talking point, though. Like I remember when Suge won it, like years ago, and everybody it got famous overnight because people were like, "This belt is so huge." Now I have to see
my god
what goes with it.
Yeah.
So I think this is like one of those 4-ways, though. I think I may be wrong. I think it's elimination style, but
it is.
Yes.
This is one of those matches where you could conceivably make a case for any of these 4 guys to win. So, like, what are your expectations out of this? Is it just going to be just a wild clusterfuck? I mean, in the best way.
I don't know. I don't know. This is another match they wanted to send, and Perez just won the championship. As we speak, it was just days ago. He defeated Adam Priest.
Fresh new champion.
Yeah, yes. Like last Saturday when we taped this, he beat Adam Priest for the belt.
And
under
so
nefarious circumstances. See the video on Twitter.
But oh, I lose my train of thought often, and I just did.
He just won the title.
He did just win the title, but New South itself they air Action Clash on Tuesday nights live on IWTV. So they have a built-in audience who, so that's going to be interesting that, maybe their audience who doesn't quite watch Action or, does watch other Southeast stuff, hopefully the idea is like with fans who are mostly into PWX, fans who are mostly into New South, that they'll all watch the show and everybody wins. Yeah. So that's an interesting thought. I have no idea what's going to happen in this match, and I absolutely love that idea. I love that.
I think those are the best ones where you can look at it, and like I said, there's nobody you're like, well, that guy's there to take the pin. You know what I mean? Like you see a match sometimes, you're like, okay, well, this guy's here.
Well, 3 of those guys are. 3 of those guys are.
Well, technically, yes. But you know what I mean? Nobody you're looking at is gonna like, okay, well, that guy's definitely not winning. I mean, you can, like I said, you can make a case for any of them in this match. I mean, Donnie's super established down there. Chris, massive pop when he came back. And Brandon is ridiculous. So now that I've seen him in live, dude, that guy's another technical freaking marvel.
Brandon had a great match. I can't remember. He had 2 matches with Action. I can't remember if this was his first or second, but he had a great match with Damian Tangra on one of our shows in like April, and I loved it. I only had Brandon in twice, so I'm very happy he's coming back. But funny story about SCI Futures. If you're familiar with the Scenic City Futures show we do, we do a future showcase where we have wrestlers who are all under 5 years who we think may end up being in SCI one day. And I know that Brandon is a big fan of Daniel Makabe, and I created a match just to really mostly inspired by Brandon. So Daniel Makabe and Brandon Williams teamed against Damian Tangra and Alex Kane in a total surprise match.
Yeah.
I even screenshotted a lot of the reactions that happened on Twitter, because I was so like, yeah, because we just sent it out there. We didn't advertise. That's one of my favorite things to be able to do, is to under promise, over deliver. I love the future showcase. I already have things that we're going to do, and that show is 7 months away. But that's a show where that I love to be able to book, because we advertise the futures matches, and then you're going to get a match or two as a surprise, and it's usually going to be a complete banger that you were like, oh, I didn't expect that. So,
like the absolutely insane 8-man tag last year. I loved that match. I love the Suplex Science versus Williams and Makabe match, but that 8-man I think will live in infamy.
that was fun. That was fun. It's nice to be able to have a lot of creativity, and and that also played that 8-man match you mentioned. Also, we had Team Merck and Team Ison, and they were feuding in TWE in that same building over the belt. So that was a match that also served. It wasn't just, hey, we're going to take 4 wrestlers and match them against 4 wrestlers. It wasn't just like, all right, let's pick 8 people and put them in. That served a specific purpose for the building itself, for TWE.
Definitely.
Because that's what I want. I want things to matter. I want shows to matter. I don't want to just put out, hell, I named a show Bangers Only, but I don't want to just only put out banger matches. I want them to have meaning and be built up.
Yeah.
So is it a lot, the continuity of like the storylines that like you were talking about earlier, organic, thought out, or a combination of both?
I got cats who are hitting up in here again, and they're arguing with each other. As far as it goes with the cross stuff, I think basically we like to reward fans who watch a lot of the different shows and pay attention. That's what we like to do. So when we have the opportunity to cross things over, Dylan Hales and John Mosley are the voices of Action. Mose will occasionally have a partner in the booth, but it does TWE, and then they're both the commentators for SUP, and they both commentated SCI, Scenic City. So they are the storytellers, so they can weave a lot of the stuff together, because they know what happened a month or 6 months ago at another promotion, and how they could weave it in and build and build this shared universe that we all have.
That's what I think is beautiful. I mean, I think that's when you get something cool like that. That's really cool. Really
cool. When we did, the finals in 2019 and 2021 came down to AC MACK and Daniel Makabe 2 years in a row. And my note to Mose, because he's a big basketball fan, was like, I want you to, all right, they're 2 years apart, but again, it's like it's the Lakers and the Celtics again in the finals. I want to be like it's the it's after everything, it boils down to these two guys yet again, and like have that be a big part of the story. So we try to be able to do stuff as best we can, and I just think of it as rewarding people who are paying attention, as opposed to just matchmaking and putting something out there, having it okay, and then it's done, and you never call back to it. you know, there's stuff for reasons that, you know, whether it's injury or something else happens where you can't deliver on something that you kind of laid seeds for, but you know, you can always potentially come back to something else. And you know, there's a lot of room for creativity and storytelling, and that's my favorite part of all this.
Little Easter eggs for people out there paying attention, eh? Oh, check this one out. Check this one out.
Here's two guys we just talked about.
Championship.
Merck, the former Graham Bell, taking on technical freaking insanity, Damian Tangra. This is actually, as much as I love AC Mack and Alex Shelley's one of my favorites of all time, this is my vote for what's probably going to be the match of the night.
Well, you know, Merck in this building for action has done some, he's gotten choke slammed off the top. He once tried to spear Orion Bishop, big wrestler. Orion caught him out of the air in a spot I absolutely loved. I was like, I remember saying, "Do you think you could do this?" I'm like, to both of them, I'm like, "Do you think you could do this?" And they pulled it off, and I was like, "Oh my god, how did you catch a spear out of thin air?" I was like, "I've never seen it before. Can you guys do it?" And so, and Damian is somebody who's really come on strong the last year, getting his name out in a lot of places. Obviously, TWE, SUP, Paradigm. He's begun over at New South as well. And this is technically a cross promotion match because Merck is defending the TWE title, and Damian Tangra is representing Scenic City because he's the first entrant in 2022. If you remember from SCI, he won the scramble, and I just decided to go ahead. Scott Hensley and I conferred, and we decided to go ahead right then. We had an idea that we wanted Damian Tangra, and we stood to the side, and we're like, yep, okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell him he's in for next year.
And well-deserved, too.
And that's just another case of, like, Damian had no idea. He didn't know. I didn't tell him to, like, hey, hang out. I just kind of timed it, like, before he was going to leave the ring, like, hey, I got a microphone. We're streaming live, and hopefully I don't sound stupid, but you know, that was a really cool moment too, because you know, he wants to be a part of SCI. He was in Futures in 2019, and then you know, he's from Bulgaria. He had to take a break, and then he came back to action, and he got a couple matches that were not huge spots, but he shined in them, made the most out of it, and it was like, all right, I want you every show.
Definitely well deserved.
Definitely.
All right, Robbie, let's talk about the big one.
Are we ready?
Let's do it.
Oh my god.
I mean, this is the one right here.
Dude, this is actually one of the, I've actually met Alex Shelley, so this is the one. I never get to say that because I live on the West Coast, but yeah.
Alex Shelley, I mean, this is the one. This is years in the making, I think. AC Mack, one of the most charismatic dude in the business, I think. And he's so incredibly over with the action fans too. Taking on a dude that's a certified legend, the IWTV World Champion Alex Shelley. I gotta say, and we've already discussed the fact that AC Mack is, you know,
AC
not
Mack,
what he appears.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the more well-deserved title shots, and I've seen. Not that nobody that has had one didn't deserve it, but you know what I mean. Like,
I will give you some. I'll give you a little bit more info on it. So, AC. If you go back to our very first show, he was the first guy out the curtain, put the microphone in his hands, and I don't, especially with AC, I'm not going to go ahead and script any sort of promo, but you know, certain times I'll give bullet points like, here's what you got to mention and work into your natural cadence of how you would say it. And then when he won the action, he was the first guy out, talked on the microphone, said this was going to be his place. And then later that year, when he became the first action champion, he starts off his promo like, I told you. And he does this tremendous callback to several months earlier, his first promo, and you know, it's like, I told you what was going to happen, that this was going to be mine, and you know, and in this case, it's not too dissimilar because he won SCI, and he grabbed the microphone and he called out the IWTV World Champion, who at the time was Wheeler Yuta, and we were able to make the match. And this was something planned, and we did make the match on our Bangers Only 2 show after the main event between AC MACK and Anthony Henry. AC did start getting emotional. He was really, that was a really cool moment to be able to do.
Him just like looking at you, or no, it was Dylan that made the announcement, right?
Dylan announced that he was the #1 contender.
We discussed, you actually announced him. And him just saying, make the match, make the match, make the match. And it's like, this is real. Like, that was one of those moments like you were talking about. That moment where you feel that emotion, like where he's just like, say it. Just say it. Please just say it now.
I was going over all the details in my head because I'm like petrified that I'm going to, mess up the date. Like for some reason, I always say May and March. I will switch them up just because, because they're 2 months to start with the letter M, and I'm petrified. I'm like, all right, January 21st. This is the name of the show. So, I'm going to all of these details because I get very scatterbrained, especially on a show and you're 2+ hours in, and it's been a long day. And that was really cool to be able to like, all right, I'm gonna string it out. And I strung the fans out too, because we had been announcing that there was gonna be a January 21st show, but unlike what Scott Hensley usually will announce in between matches, instead of saying, Action Wrestling returns, he would just talk about wrestling is returning and that January 21st is going to be the next show. But he never said. So my favorite part of this promo is, I announced January 21st, there's going to be a show in this building, but it's not an action show. And everyone just shuts up. And I say it's going to be an IWTV Super Show. So we worked the fans, and the IWTV Super Show got a pop. So I was really happy about that. And AC, just in my face, hammering. And I couldn't look right at him because I knew if I looked right at him that I would get like, all right, I'm going to fuck up what I'm going to say, because I want to make sure I deliver this well, because we had somebody filming it right on the stage, separate actually from the house show filming we were doing, because we were going to get it right to IWTV. And an hour and a half later, it was up, tweeted out with the match made and a promo that AC did after. So it's nice. It's nice. I mean, obviously I work closely with IWTV. This one is a little bit differently. It's nice having this. I hate the word synergy, but that's the only word that really fits right here to be able to really make this a big deal.
I got a question. Actually, I'm going to ask Nick this, because out of the 3 people on this screen, I'm going to assume that you already know who's going to win this match. Breaking kayfabe here, and we're uncut.
Which match?
I'm going to ask Nick here.
Which match?
This
Mack
match,
and Shelley.
Shelley and Mack.
I have no fucking idea.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's good. Then I'm going to ask both of you. I'm going to keep asking. I'm going to ask Nick because I want to hear his opinion, and then I want to hear your opinion on his opinion. Does Alex Shelley, does he retain? Does he say it's not time yet, AC MACK, or does Shelley pass the torch? What do you think, Nick?
I mean, look, it's one of my 5 favorite wrestlers of all time versus maybe my favorite dude on the indies right now, the guy I named Independent Wrestler of the Year 2021
on the Uncut podcast.
Going uncut. Hashtag and you. It's gotta happen, man. I'm gonna be there. So just watch for me in the 3rd row, and you will see a grown man cry if AC MACK loses this match.
Well, I want to say first off that I'm exceptionally happy that we get to have Alex Shelley as the IWTV World Champion. He's been just, for a number of years, been such a phenomenal wrestler. A phenomenal tag team wrestler, singles wrestler. He's had multiple tag team partners that were great. I mean, the Motor City Machine Guns was awesome. So, to have him come here in such a position, he is the #1 independent wrestler in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the belt that says it. It's recognized by Pro Wrestling Illustrated as a world title. So that's fantastic. We've had title defenses before with Tracy Williams and Warhorse, who both did a lot to elevate that belt to get it where it is now. And so it's good. It's going to be an honor. It's going to be awesome to have Shelley here. I hope AC wins, so I hope he beats him. I legitimately, I really, like I told you before, there's some things I have no influence over. I don't even know when I can't even tell you when I'm going to find out.
Do you want to know?
I mean, legitimately, I'm going to at some point have to know, but
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine with me not, you know, from a breaking kayfabe standpoint, not knowing, because I very often don't tell wrestlers stuff creatively ahead of time. And that's by design, because I don't want, I want them to be able to be free and
Natural, like not force something.
yeah, and in their build up to a match or a tournament, you know, they don't know. You know, like all 16 guys in Scenic City can say I'm going to win, because none of them knew who was winning. You know, they can all claim it. None of them knew the booking plans. So
I will say I called last year's SCI, but of course it's AC MACK, so I'm always gonna say AC MACK should win everything.
well,
I'm not gonna lie, I marked
well,
for AC MACK. I try not to mark for anybody, but I do for AC MACK.
In the Southeast, he's won everything. Action champion for over 2 years.
Yeah.
He was a TWE champion. He was a Southern Honor champion. He is the reigning Scenic City champion for 2021. So
and he was Bone Storm champion, because I was there the night he won it.
He was the dual action, because at the time he won the Bone Storm title, he was also the action champion. So when he beat Brett Eisen, he was a dual champion and defended them dually as well. So, and he was Bone Storm champion for just over a year as well, because he held that from, I believe, October to October.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't wait. 24 hours from when this airs, I'll be down there. You know, don't big time me. At least pretend you know me.
Hey, what time does the show start? It's a Friday night, right?
Yeah.
Friday. Let's plug it. Friday night, January 21st, Southeast First, and that's going to be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on IWTV.
So that's 4:30 my time. So I will. I'll be just.
You're calling out sick, is what you just said.
I'll just be getting home. Like I'll be a half hour late.
There you go.
Hey, you got a phone. IWTV's got an app.
I got it.
I watch a lot of stuff just walking through. Like if I see the pop up, 10 or 15 minutes before, like, okay, let me click on that. I'll be walking around just watching a match on mute if I'm out doing something. So I use that app for my phone quite often, actually.
I have definitely been at work and used the VOD on my lunch break plenty of times.
Often. IWTV is such an incredible tool, because you used to have to hunt down VHS tapes of one show, and they would cost more than the IWTV service does now. And you have access to
so much, dude.
Entire promotions have their entire libraries up. So there's so much that you can watch. You can just type in a wrestler's name and pick and watch. Sometimes I will go ahead and just throw a tweet out there. It's like, give me a random ass IWTV match to watch, and sometimes I'll even give it, hey, that's 10 minutes or under, or whatever, because I like to be able to sample new stuff, and it's such an incredible tool to wrestlers to be able to see, and fans, of course. But for the wrestlers to be able to see everything on their opponent, because there was sometimes when I wrestled, when I started my career, there was no way to watch anything. It's like, all right, you're going to wrestle this guy in 2 weeks. Okay, cool. I've got 2 weeks notice. It doesn't fucking help, because I don't know who it is. And there's not a YouTube, and there's just not a way to be able to get
information. Yeah.
It was, so it's totally changed the game.
Well, Matt, I told you we go an hour, but if it was flowing, we'd go longer. I think this was a ton of fun. I loved it. I can't wait for, like I said, we're filming this week in advance. I can't wait for next Friday. I'm going to be there. It's going to be slick.
I cannot wait. I'm excited. I'm still, out talking up the show. The local interest is high, and that's a great feeling, because normally you don't you peak everything locally in the last week with, nailing down, hey, you're coming on Friday and this and that. So, it's, fingers crossed for a big one. I anticipate that we'll do well. But I don't like to overpromise anything. But thankfully the wrestlers always, I think the biggest compliment as a promoter and booker that I can give to a wrestler is that you made me look like the smartest booker in the world.
There you go.
I mean, that's just because, they reward the faith that we had in them, and that's great to be able to reward those wrestlers. And, hopefully, in 6 months, in a year, we've had a few Southeast First shows out there, and every promotion that's participating is, their numbers have gone up on VOD, and people are starting to check out their product more. And wrestlers are, if wrestlers can get bookings off of the show, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Well,
Looking forward to it.
I'm gonna leave it like this, man. You go do your thing.
Thank you very much for the support, and Nick, I will see you next week, aka tomorrow.
Yes, see you tomorrow.
Matt, it was my pleasure, dude. You have a great evening, man.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Peace out, brother.
Thanks, man. Dude, gonna be such a sick show. What a great guy. Great interview. Oh, dude.
We went through a lot of stuff. We went through a lot of stuff tonight, man.
Dude, you know what? I don't even care. People are like, oh, it's so long. No, this is a good one. You're not going to freaking lose interest.
Can we give a shout out to the franchise, Love Panda?
Yeah, shout out Love Panda 24x48, our boy Matt Minnick. A little busy tonight. Stuff happens. We filmed this one on an off night, so it happens.
Yeah. He's here with us in spirit, always with us in spirit.
Always with us in spirit. He'll be texting me in like 15 minutes going, what, did I miss the show? Anyway.
Well, we can't.
Do we know next week?
Do we know who next week? I mean, I know who tomorrow is, but do you know who the after?
Okay, so not
I'm confused, Nick.
Tomorrow for
I'm
last
confused.
Week, the one we're filming in 2 weeks for the January 27th.
There you go.
We're gonna have easily the crazy. You know what we talk about? Sometimes we have people's names on our phone, and you're like, "Holy shit, that just happened." This was one for me. A dude I'm super looking forward to interviewing because he entertained the shit out of me when he was in WWE. He's doing great stuff on the indies now. Rodney Mack is going to be our guest January 27th.
That's pretty
going to be awesome.
Dude. That's one I think. You know what? I think that's gonna be a sleeper one. I think that one's gonna pop. I think it's gonna be cool.
I feel like that one. I feel like he's gonna have some stuff to say.
Yes.
And you know what? If not, he could probably beat my ass. So I'm not gonna tell him he was boring, even if he is. So there you go. Oh, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, how are you gonna do 2 clicks? You can't do 2 clicks with one hand.
Dude, I'm gonna do something. So you do your thing.
God. I'm afraid of what you're gonna be using to click the mouse. Ladies and gentlemen, for Matt Griffin from Action Wrestling, Southeast First, definitely check it out on IWTV tomorrow night, tonight, however it ends up working out in your world. Check that show out.
Yeah. For
the Invisible Love Panda, from my boy, Robbie Cutthroat, I'm your boy, the Ace Nick White. And Robbie, how many clicks is it?
It's going to be 1 and 2.
2 clicks. I hate you guys.